all okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd just like to just say a few words now in relation to our miners. I'd like now to take a few moments to remember our brothers who worked in darkness, who was every working day, death walked beside them. Our village is here because of that hole in the ground that gave Johnson prosperity. Within 5 miles of where we stand today, Swanwick, High Hill, Coates Park, Upper Birchwood, Foundation Pit, Shady, Rachel Pit, Alfreton, Oakerthorpe, Wingfield Manor, Old Deep Springs, Bentic and Selston collieries surrounded this village. A rich heritage of coal mining. But let's not forget, Derbyshire has a harrowing history of mining disasters. 1938, Markham Colliery, explosion, 79 dead. 1950, Cresswell Colliery, conveyor fire, 80 dead. 1973, Markham Colliery, cage plunge, 18 dead. These men never came home to their families. If you are from a mining family, it's in your blood. We honour them, and we will remember them. Thank you. Now I'd like to introduce Mr. Paul Liversuch, ex-president of South Derbyshire NUA.
Well, I'd like to start really by saying thank you for inviting me to come and talk to you on the mining heritage. In South Derbyshire we have a statue, and it's a picture of a miner and his son, and it really senses the history of mining. When things started to close under that vile creature, and I can't even mention the name because it puts a taste in my mouth, I decided along with somebody else that we ought to have a statue in memory of miners, because you know there's an old saying, isn't there, in the trade union movement, and I've been in the trade union movement for years now, and it says these words: the past we inherit, but the future we build. You know, the biggest tragedy out is this: that do we ever learn from the past? Do we ever learn to control our affairs of things that have been passed down to us? It's our heritage. We owe it to the people that sacrificed, in some cases, their life. We owe it to the people that stood, to the men and women that stood for things that were right. You know, when we look at mining, we forget one thing, that it fueled the Industrial Revolution. The coal owners made millions and thousands of pounds, and the miners never shared a bit in it. You know, there's a saying, isn't it? James Connolly, an Irish revolutionary, said this: our demands are most moderate, only one year. In other words, they had the audacity to say, because the minerals that rightly belong to us, that they should be paid the cost for it. You know, when you look at the minerals of our earth, that there is 1,000 years of coal. Of course, the Greens and others say, well, it's a dirty fuel. Yes, dirt. You know, one thing which we've plenty of money made out of, it's dirt, but it can be altered and it can be changed. We have new technologies today, and we can have fluidized gas, and and carbon can be captured. And then what? They seem not to take any notice of this. These are things that have been tried and that have been tested. And you know, I had to attend a meeting yesterday about the miners' pension scheme. And you know what stirs me? One of the delegates got up and said, well, we've sent invitations to people to attend. You know, he said that the MP, the Chesterfield MP, ignored it. What a disgrace that man must be, to ignore their constituencies that come from a mining upbringing. When we look at mining, Sheffield University did a thesis on it, and they reckon the redundancy payments alone, this is 5 years into a 10-year plan, would have kept the industry going for 25 years. That's how much they hated us, that's how much they despised us. And it's sad to say that some of the Labour MPs supporting the Tories in what they were doing. You've got Neil Kinnock walking and shouting and doing. But you know, if any contributions should be made, it should be made to miners, and that's why we have that statute, that we can continue to remind the contributions they did. You know, the miners' union, which was had to be fought for, it wasn't passed down. There were many men that were blacks and not allowed work, and I'm speaking from experience. I've been blacks, I've not been allowed work, but I'm here to tell the story. You know, a lot of MPs talk about being threatened. Oh yeah, they're going to kill me. I had telephone calls, and one said, yeah, if I got a gun, I'd shoot Scarborough and myself. But I'm still here, thank God, to tell that tale. But you know, there's one thing about the miners' union, we go into history, this is where we've got to learn and we've got to grasp it, that they wanted to have men and women in Parliament that might represent their needs and their cares. We've got to a state today where MPs are parachuted in. They're not chosen, they're not picked from a group of people. Let me give you an example. Capstick was in the Yorkshire coalfield, and they chose him to represent them. Well, what happened? I did when that walk from Mr. Blair stopped it. Now that can never be right. We've got a situation today. We've got a bin strike in Birmingham. But Andrew Rayner has the audacity to tell them to accept it. To accept what? A drop in the money? Is that what the Labour Party is about? Not in my opinion. You've got today, we've seen the doctors being bypassed. They don't want to pay doctors and people to save our lives and improve our health. It is a state that we're in, and we're in today there are people that are not truly and fully represented. You talk about democracy. How can it be a democracy that when 26% can vote a government, it isn't democracy? And this is the state that tells state that we're in today. You know, in our area, we had the UDM set up. I don't mind saying that you can't believe that an organisation can exist. They cooperated and they worked with the Tory government. It wasn't so long ago that Edwina the poet, you know, the head lady, she was very friendly with Mr. Major. She came to the office, the UDM offices in Somercoates and worked with them. We had one of the officials of the union after a national executive meeting in Sheffield, coming home, and he called it the hotel, the Bath Hotel. And there they was all huddled together, all pally together, and they were working with a Tory government, and they didn't know where to go. Well, I could find a place for them, a pit, where they never get out of. They were financed by big business. They had a conference in Weymouth that was financed by big business. Prendergast said, they would let us down. Well, what the hell is the effect? They're good to support them. And they were the root cause of discontent. When do we learn? United we stand, divided we fall. And this is the situation that we had to combine and had to work in. Well, when, there comes a time in life when you have to make a decision. When the union split and under different leadership decided to create a ragbag industry called the union, which is nothing new. It's happening in Nottinghamshire, called the Spencer Union, and it's interesting, isn't it? That a few of our miners run over it, and all of a sudden they saw the leader of the union, who set it up, one of them, Mr. Kentu, walking across the square, and also they said, well, we're following. They followed him all right, and he went into the bank, and there he was putting bundles and bundles of money into the bank, so they couldn't trace his money. And do we ever learn divided before? United we stand. And it's disgraceful, isn't it? But I remember a time when the UDM was in, and they called themselves the Democratic Union. Well, when we sought permission to hold ballots, leaving hold ballots on the premises, the UDM was running to the boss and saying you should allow them on the premises. So, okay, we was cast out. We couldn't have ballots. I found a way of doing it. I held a ballot in my car. I'm probably the only human in the fifth that's ever held a ballot in my car. So they didn't defeat us. I can remember at the time the pitchman were giving leaflets out, campaigning against the closure of the pits. And I might add, the information that Arthur Scarborough had was not his own opinion, but it was passed down to by the deputy leader of the coal board and warned the union about pit closure ban, which they denied. I hear a lot of people go Arthur, but I tell you, he was right. When he warned about the coal industry was going to close. But you see, they were all right, because financially they were looked after. They got what they wanted. I'll tell you something. If I had my life over and over again, I would change it. Because if you're going to stoop that low to receive money from the government, it means you cannot go any lower. That organisation went to the bottom. You've got plenty of gases in fit the miners out of money to their homes. It's absolutely disgraceful what's happened. We don't learn, do we? I like what Sherry proposed. He says we need to rise up like lions. We need to snap the chains that have fallen in us. And if anybody ever said a true word, because I'm fed up with people keep saying we can't do anything. I remember being in London, we'd had a march, and I was walking up and the police were there, I thought, yeah, it's going to stop me. But I was wrong. We had a good chat. And I said, protesting, I'm leaving protesting. And he says, but the real thing is we should be protesting in the money centre. And he looked at me and he went pale. He says, for God's sake, don't say that, because they go running that to stop it. And that's the situation we are. But the point is this, that the idea that we can't do anything is utterly different. We can fight back. I have to tell you the truth today, isn't it? That the working classes have got to come off the knees and fight back so we can have a better society. I like what the Salvation Army did. We just listen to a brass band and I'm very fond of music. I might have some of the jazz and classical people use brass. But the problem is we need and we must at all costs fight back. Because we can do it. We're capable of it. We are many. They are few. Unelected, unaccountable companies dictating policy. And I might add, financing the Labour Party as well. It's an utter and shameful disgrace. We need to get off our knees and fight back. Because, you know, if ever I learned anything, and about the disputes in the coal industry, there were men and women that did stand up. I can remember a bloke we used to call Tiger, and he used to walk 6 miles there and 6 miles back to protest and to fight against the pig post. And they're the people you'd rather. I can think of men and women that stood outside the pig gates giving leaflets out because I was told that I'd be dismissed and sacked and got rid of if we did. We counteracted the movement and we fought for it. And I'm proud to have been part of that union, proud to serve under Arthur Scarborough, and proud to stand here saying that enough is enough. And we should send a message clear and positive to the Labour Party. Enough is enough. You look after our interests, because I'll tell you what, if the ruling class has looked after Thatcher, and the Labour Party ought to look after us. We're the ones that pay the money, we're the ones that subscribe to it. I'm welcome Mrs. Graham, the United Leader, she's standing up, and it needs the rest of the unions to stand up and be counted. Thank you very much. Bye.